Welcome, everybody. We're doing the Tech and Tortillas post-game recap. Texas Tech comes away with a 7-point victory against UCF. Roy, what were your initial thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I thought it was a total team effort. I think we went wire to wire. We weren't ever losing. Obviously, it was a close game. Probably didn't feel like that the entire way. So it was tight. It felt tight through. We needed a lot of teamwork and team scoring to get it done. So some frustrating things that stood out to me was I think the guard play could have been a little bit better, and I know we'll touch on that. But overall, we got to win. Could it have been better? Yeah, it could have been. But we stopped the 3-game skid, so I'm good with that.
Yeah. I mean, after losing 3 straight, I don't care how you win, just get a win. And against what's going to be probably the maybe second or third worst team in the Big 12, that was definitely a must-win. I was obviously Walton got hot in the first half. They then they switched to his zone, kind of base guarding him, so he didn't get a lot of looks after that. But I think that was one of the more frustrating wins I've watched of a Tech basketball team. And I know there's been a lot of talk about like the referees and not getting calls or ticky-tack fouls. Thought it was okay for considering. You just had way too many times I felt like Pop and Joe are just looking for fouls. Like they're not looking to score, they're looking to get to the free throw line. And I think it got to the point where you saw Pop get pulled at the end of the game for a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Grant said something to him, because it was after every play he was looking over to the ref, making some kind of gesture. Like, dude, the more you do that, I feel like the less you're going to get calls. So he's not helping his case. Some of them I'm sure were fouls, but they just got to be a little bit more physical in attacking the baskets. I felt, like you said, the rebounding was a lot better so far. Against a bigger UCF team, obviously they were missing their starting center, but that backup was just as long. So, yeah, happy with the win. Ugly to watch, but we got another big game coming up on Monday that surely the boys can get up for.
Oh yeah, for sure. That'll be an exciting one, and hopefully this kind of got the juices flowing again, and we can. And it's at home too, right? It's in Lubbock.
Yeah.
And that game's about to kick off right now, or it's already started. I don't know what the score of it is, but I would assume Kansas isn't too happy with their last game, and I think they're playing at home today, so they'll probably want to get a decent win. But with that being said, McCullough coming back home, so not home, but coming back to Lubbock, right?
He's this Baylor game, so they could be at serious risk with their lack of depth. Like we talk about our lack of depth.
Yeah.
No depth.
If
they up that game, they're going to be playing with their hair on fire on Monday when they come in. So I know all this illness and stuff, maybe people are a little lethargic, but they're going to have to play their hardest game of the season to start getting on a winning streak.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think a lot of the teams in the Big 12 are kind of in the same boat relative to, dropping a few games here and there and trying to get it right towards the end of the season. And that's all you can ask for really in this conference. What other things stood out to you in the game? I think for me, I know I didn't really touch on it in depth, but I guess it was the guard play. I mean, if you look at Isaacs, Toussaint, and McMillan, 2 for 13, 2 for 10, and 2 for 9. And so if you add that up, we shot 38% on the field. If you just take those guys out, I mean, we're probably shooting close to 65, 70%, even higher than that. And so I think that was one thing that stood out. And maybe that's why, you touched on it. Isaacs was frustrated. It's not a fun day when you go 2 from 13 from the field and you feel like you're getting fouled. So I think that was probably it. I'm sure he did get taken out. I think he got taken out twice in the last 2 minutes of the game. And so I don't know if that was one to say something to him or if it was just the size that they wanted in the lineup. So I'd be curious to see what happened. I think we're probably making him much to do about nothing, but something that I was surprised with. I did like Jennings' play. I mean, he got 6 points. He was 2 for 3. I know the last time Dylan spoke about it, he just said sometimes he seems like a chicken with his head cut off, but I think he got in the paint. He provided us minutes when Washington was out, and I think he made good decisions. Obviously, he only shot 3 times, but I felt like a calmer presence than he typically is, and so I think that probably comes with experience, right? But he did finish where he needed to. So I was excited about that. You touched on Walton just being on fire in the first half, and I don't know if he even shot in the second half, but those were some things that I wanted to call out as well. And yeah, just a variety of scoring. You hope down the stretch the 3 guys at the guard position can kind of figure it out.
We haven't had a game where guys are that bad. So to still win by 7, I mean, I know it's like UCF, but it's still big if you're gonna. Hey, maybe they just wasted all their shots on UCF and they'll all get hot on Monday. So that might be smart.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's we'll stick with that. I like that, Dallas.
Like we're gonna miss these on purpose because we're owed them on Monday.
Yeah, right. You got to return to your average. So they tanked it this game, and they'll probably bring it back up next game. But other than that, I mean, like you said, it just felt like a frustrating game to watch. I think we were probably frustrated given our last few outings. But total team effort. I think Darian Williams showed what he can offer on a bigger scale today. And obviously he'll be fun to watch, in the coming years at Texas Tech as well. And so that line of 13 points, 13 rebounds, and a few assists here and there was a good thing to see.
Yeah, Darian, I felt like had one of his better games. Exactly what his stat line was, but he felt like he was doing a little bit of everything and really settled in with some of the passes he was making because he's been kind of hit or miss so far in Big 12 play with that. But yeah, I mean, he's only a sophomore, true sophomore. As his body develops over the next couple of years, I'd like to see him get a little bit more explosive. And if he adds like that part to his game, he could be an all-conference type player. So it was good to see out of him. You mentioned Jennings. I feel like McCasland after this past couple of games is trusting him a little bit more to go in there and get like some real minutes. Because it felt like Washington was actually getting some breathers, not just because before McCaslin was very strategic about calling timeouts around the 4-minute timeout to try to get extended breaks for him to really extend those minutes because I think he was on pace to play more minutes than any big has, like Big 12 play.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be crucial, I think, for his longevity for the rest of the conference. We got our bye week early, so we're going to need him to stay fresh. Yeah, I was curious to see if Kyron also got some minutes after the last game. He didn't get out there. I think Lamar Washington got a couple minutes, but feels like when everyone's healthy, this is kind of the lineup to stick to, which I'm all right with at this point in the season.
Yeah, the 8-guy rotation. Yeah, I was a little surprised. Not that like Lindsey blew me away in the minutes that he got, but I thought he was aggressive. And obviously, we were really small when he was out there as our big. So I think that's part of it. To your point, you would have to be extremely strategic if that was the lineup you were going to go with and have some pretty decent awareness of what the other team had out there because we saw what our weaknesses was against Baylor, and it was exploited super easily when we had that lineup in there. So, I think that's that part of maybe why we didn't see him. I would like to see him continue to develop. I did like the point that you brought up with Williams with his development because, I think he does a lot of the little things very well. And so, like, what does it look like when he becomes more of the focal point in the offense? And obviously he produced when he needed to today. But, sometimes it does seem like he looks like slow-mo. Who was it for the Spurs? Kyle
Anderson.
Yeah, just a little bit like that. Like, he does a lot of things well, doesn't make many mistakes, but it's like, all right, go to the basket, do something, dive in there,
Yeah.
and then start being like that go-to player, because I think he's a good shooter. I think he has some of those key things that can make him, to your point, a top guy in the conference over the next few years.
Yeah, and I guess one thing I wanted to touch on briefly was the crowd. We've got Jose up there in Lubbock who goes to all the games and stuff, and the student section was probably its smallest that it's been since before Big 12 play. And if any students are watching this, stick with this team, man. Like, this is like the kind of team that can really, I feel like, totally come together by the time March comes around. I think people forget, like, that Final Four national championship runner-up team, that Elite Eight team, the Sweet 16 team in Mark Adams' first year. Like, they had a lot of stinkers in the beginning of the year, and it took a while to, like, kind of gel, especially when you've got this many transfers. And you saw it this game, like, it was a perfect example of guys just not being on the same page. Just passes going right through people's hands where they're expecting. I think it happened a couple times to Jennings and Washington, where they're expecting Pop or Joe to go up with the ball. They pass it to him, and it just goes right through their hands. I think they'll continue to iron that stuff out. And I truly do think that this is a team that can easily reach a Sweet 16 Elite Eight if the matchups are right. Obviously, against bigger, more athletic teams, they can struggle at times. But when you've got several, like, four guys shooting over 40% from three in conference play, you can hang with anybody. So we'll see. This team is good, though. We lost 3 straight games. I think McCaslin doesn't want us to say this, but if we don't get sick, I think we win at least 2 of those games. So
yeah, we stayed in all those games too. They were super close, and so to be discouraged because of that, I don't think is the right answer. Right, to your point, we got our 3 guys back to being healthy, and it just opens up the floor so much, even when they're not making it, right? Like, we just have so many guys that can shoot, and when we do get to March, not a thing you want to see in the tournament, right? You don't want to see team 4 deep with 40% three-point shooters. It's a scary thing. So I really like that call out, and like that we're getting back to being healthy. And they'll just continue to learn how to play with each other. That's a great call out too, Dallas. Like, that's such a big thing in basketball, is to be able to read the other person's mind and what they're going to do. And you hate to see it when it just flies out of the guy's hands and goes out of bounds because he didn't know the pass was coming, but that comes with time. And we brought in 6 new guys or whatever it was. So the reality is they are 23 games into the season, and they've only played 23 games together. So there's not a lot of experience with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see where they're at come Big 12 tournament time. McCaslin's a winner. I don't have any doubts about how prepared we'll be once we get there. Just stick with them. We got to win home games, though, man. Like, that USA, when it's packed, I think can be the best arena in the country. I know we'll have Jayhawks and Cyclones say that, but I was at the Chris Beard return game. It's impossible to get a better atmosphere than that. I know not every game will be that, but it can be. If everybody's hyped up about a team and excited, which I think everyone should be about this team. So stick in there, keep going to games, keep showing support to these guys, because, they're fighting. I know it might not always look like they are. They've been sick recently. They'll get discouraged a little, but these guys are dogs.
A lot of games left in the season. Like you said, we got 4 more home games, those being Kansas, TCU, Texas, and Baylor. And so those are probably the teams you want to see in your own stadium too. So that's a good thing. So that, hopefully we can get a few of those. And then the away games, Iowa State, tough place to play, right? UCF playing them again, and then West Virginia and Oklahoma State. So, not too bad of a schedule. I think obviously it's the Big 12, so it's not an easy schedule, and every game is tough. But to Dallas's point, show up, go to USA, and cheer so we can get some more wins and feel good about going into the postseason this year. But super excited. Good to get back on the right track. And so we'll be getting ready for Kansas over the next couple of days.
Yeah, and I tweeted this out after the last loss. I think this team has a floor of 12-6 in the Big 12. I think we're going to win 12 games in the Big 12. Maybe not, but I think we win at least 12 games. And that this year could be a share of the Big 12 championship, depending on how things play out. I mean, Kansas has won it almost every year, and they've lost 4 games already. So you got to hang in there. And, man, if you're a student and you miss out on going to all the home games of a Big 12 championship team, you're going to regret it. So show up.
Yeah, that's it. You're on fire right now, Dallas. You're preaching to the choir. I mean, to be in this close at the towards the end of the season, and for it not to be full is kind of crazy. And it's not like we are towards the bottom of that standings. And so I love that call out. And like 4 games that are probably against the lower half of our conference left on our schedule.
Yeah.
So the chances are all right in front of us. But again, we'll need the students to go. We need the city of Lubbock to go and fill up that stadium for the tough games. All the tough games are at home. Yeah.
Outside of Iowa State, all your tougher games are at home, so you got to capitalize.
Yeah.
You have the score pulled up for the other games. I know the Cincy Houston game was close and come down to the wire. And I'm curious what that Baylor-Kansas game has started out.
Yeah, let's look at it. So Kansas is 18-6 right now.
Wow.
So they are playing pretty well. And then the other one you wanted to see was, so obviously Iowa State won by 11 today. Cincinnati lost by 5. So Houston ended up pulling it out, had a strong second half.
Anybody's game was a bad loss. They just hung in there with what a lot of people think is one of the best teams in the country. They were up at half too.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't get to watch much of it because I had the Tech game on, but
yeah. At this point, I guess Iowa State kind of has to be the favorite. I don't know what the rest of their schedule is like. I know they've had one of the tougher schedules to this point. But I mean, you do go there to play. If you can steal one there, you'll be back in the championship conversation. So,
yeah, Iowa State has. Sorry, Dallas. What did you say?
I was just saying, exciting few weeks ahead.
Yeah, Iowa State has Cincinnati, Tech, Houston, West Virginia, Oklahoma, UCF, BYU, Kansas State.
So not the toughest schedule, but I mean they've got some losable games. They still got to play us. They still got to play Houston, Kansas. I don't know what to think of Kansas State. So
yeah, I always see that they're not close to being favored in any of the games, but it's like, well, why? But
that last game of the season will have some spice in it too. After the last one with the crying Jim Carrey guy.
And then Houston has Texas, Iowa State, Baylor, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, UCF, Kansas. But did you see what the score of the Texas game was?
Texas is playing better.
They won by 40 or something today.
They're starting to put it together. It is West Virginia, but yeah.
Yeah, that's still a lot of points. So, I mean, yeah, everybody has losable games. So we'll see what happens. It'll be fun the last 2 weeks of the season when it's still not decided. So,
yeah, just control what you can control. Keep winning games.
If you don't lose, you can't lose, right? That's how it works.
That's a statistical fact. If we don't lose, we lose.
Yeah, I love it. Is there anything else we want to touch on? I mean, I think we covered a lot of the Big 12 too as well. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I got to everything. I didn't feel like there was a ton to talk to. I think it's pretty obvious what we just watched, what the flaws were, what the strengths were. Gotta be better to get a win on Monday, but I trust in Coach Gass. We trust.
yeah, and I think that most solid point you had was we were just getting all of our misses out of the table today. So I
Yeah,
think that will hold true when we talk on what is it, Monday or Tuesday?
I think this was only the third game in conference play we've shot under 40% from three. So
Yeah,
get them all out of the way in one game.
they did. They got
Yeah.
them all out of the way. So I'm excited to see if that holds true. I'm gonna go ahead and say it will.
There you go. That's Troy locking in a Texas Tech W against Kansas on Monday.
Put it on. I'll go ahead and put it in now.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Be ready for Big Monday. Tech will be on. They'll be the mainstay of college basketball. So make sure you're there and rocking out the USA. Wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em.